In episode 1 of the BAM Files, we asked one of the biggest questions surrounding bricks and minifigs. Who really is in charge of BAM franchising? That episode focused heavily on Reed Brimhall, his role, his influence, and the unanswered questions surrounding his connection to BAM. But today, this is not episode 2. This is a BAM Files special report. And the reason? A new name has entered the investigation. Teulu Legosy LLC. I know I'm not pronouncing it the way that it appears, but that is how you pronounce it. Teulu Legosy LLC is an Idaho company connected to Reed Brimhall. And according to a former Boise Bricks Minifigs manager, the company that owned that store wrote her paychecks and ran the operation. And now EBN has been provided with a check from January of 2025 from Teulu Legosy LLC. And that check was made out to the former manager. Now, all of this goes back to what we discussed in our opening segment of the BAM Files, the language found in the FDD that mentions the franchisor's parent. Who is the parent company that's above Bricks and Minifigs, if there is in fact one? The FDD mentions a franchisor's parent, but it doesn't explain who that is. To be clear, we're not saying that we have the proof that Teulu Legosy LLC is the parent company. But we're asking a very simple question that BAM should probably consider answering. If Teulu Legosy LLC is not the parent company, then who is? Before we get into the FDD language, we need to talk about the name itself. Teulu. It's actually a Welsh word, and the Welsh word means family. EBN had 3 different sources with direct ties to Bricks and Minifigs reach out and tell us about this LLC. All 3 of them told me that Teulu is a Welsh word that means family, and a simple Google search corroborated that. Now the second word, Legosy, not legacy, Legosy. Root word Lego, also a play on words, legacy. Now that's important because it doesn't sound like a random company name. It sounds like a family legacy company. There's another piece of context worth noting. Our friend BJC Live Show recently reported that Evelyn McNeff, the mother of Ammon and Matthew McNeff, also has the same grandparents as Reed Brimhall, and the 2 of them happen to be second cousins. Teulu Legosy. We're not making this video about anybody's family personally. The point is this. Teulu Legosy appears to point toward a family, but it also points toward Lego and legacy. When that company shows up connected to Reed Brimhall, the Boise Bricks and Minifigs store, and the same address in BAM's FDD, it becomes part of the story.
Now take the name Teulu Legosy and put it beside BAM's own FDD. In one place, the 2026 FDD says there are no parents or predecessors required to be disclosed. But later in that same document, Reed Brimhall is listed as CFO of the franchisor and the franchisor's parent. Now guys, that phrase jumps off the page to me, because once the document says franchisor's parent, the next question is obvious. What parent? Is that just standard language? Is there an entity behind BAM franchising that is not being clearly identified? Is it connected to Reed Brimhall, or is it connected to another company entirely? As of right now, we just don't know the answer yet. But that phrase is exactly why we kept digging. And that search led us back to Teulu Legosy.
Teulu Legosy LLC is an Idaho company. The public records connect it to Reed Brimhall. They list Reed as the registered agent, and the company is tied to 10150 West Fairview Avenue in Boise, Idaho. That address is the part that we need to make a note of. 10150 West Fairview Avenue, because that same address shows up again in BAM's FDD. In the 2026 FDD, BAM lists the Boise Bricks and Minifigs location at that same address under Reed Brimhall, and the FDD says that location is owned and operated by an entity in which BAM CFO is an owner. So now we have Teulu Legosy tied to that address. We also have a Boise Bricks and Minifigs store tied to that address, and we have Reed Brimhall tied to both.
Now the timeline's important. Teulu Legosy appears in Idaho records in 2015. That same year, Idaho Business Review reported that Teulu Legosy leased more than 3,000 square feet at 10150 West Fairview Avenue in Boise. Then year after year, the Idaho annual reports continue showing the Fairview Avenue connection. And by the time we get to BAM's 2026 FDD, that same Boise address is listed for the Bricks and Minifigs location, connected to Reed Brimhall. Now, of course, that does not magically make Teulu Legosy the parent company of BAM. We're not saying that. But it does make Teulu Legosy a company that cannot be ignored in this story. And then we spoke with somebody that worked inside that Boise store.
Taveya Marconi has returned for another on-the-record interview. She is the former manager at the Boise store location. She worked directly for Reed Brimhall.
Teulu is actually a Welsh word. Reed is Welsh, and it means family. And it's for the family Legosy, so it's their legacy. That is the company that owns the Boise store, and that is the company that wrote my paychecks, and all of everything was run for the Boise store out of that company.
After that interview, Ms. Marconi provided EBN with a copy of a January 2025 check made out to her from Teulu Legosy LLC. The check lists Teulu Legosy at 10150 West Fairview Avenue in Boise, the same address we have been tracking through the Idaho records and BAM's FDD. That does not prove that Teulu Legosy is the parent company, but it does corroborate a key part of Ms. Marconi's statement. Teulu Legosy was not just a name filing, it was the company issuing her paychecks. And that makes the Teulu Legosy question even harder for BAM to ignore. This is the part where we need to slow down a little bit because it would be easy to overstate this.
Exactly. We are not saying case closed, Teulu Legosy is the parent. We do not have a document that says Teulu Legosy owns BAM Franchising. We do not have a stock ledger. We do not have a corporate ownership chart. We do not have a signed statement from BAM identifying Teulu Legosy as the parent company. But we do have enough to ask why this company keeps showing up around Reed Brimhall, the Boise store, payroll evidence, and the same address BAM lists in the FDD.
And that brings us back to the phrase that started this entire thing, franchisor's parent.
Now, once again, before publishing this report, EBN contacted BAM, Reed Brimhall, Eamon, and Matt McNeff for comment. As of our production deadline, yet again, we had not received a response. If they do respond, though, we will review it and update the audience accordingly.
So here's the evidence board right now. BAM's FDD uses the phrase franchisor's parent. Teulu Legosy is an Idaho LLC connected to Reed Brimhall. Teulu Legosy is tied to 10150 West Fairview Avenue in Boise. BAM's FDD lists the Boise Bricks and Minifigs location at 10150 West Fairview Avenue. The FDD says that Boise location is owned and operated by an entity in which BAM CFO is an owner. A former Boise store manager told EBN that Teulu Legosy owned that store, wrote her paychecks, and ran the operation. That same former manager provided EBN with a January 2025 check from Teulu Legosy LLC, listing the same Fairview Avenue address. And BJC Live Show has reported a family relationship between Reed Brimhall and the McNeff family. That's the board, that's the trail, and that's why BAM needs to answer the question plainly. If Teulu Legosy is not the parent, then who is?
Now, there are two mistakes people can make with a story like this. The first mistake is to overclaim it and say we have proven something we have not proven. We are not going to do that. The second mistake is to ignore the paper trail because the final document has not surfaced yet. We are not going to do that either. This is exactly how investigations work. You follow the records, you compare the addresses, you check the FDD, you talk to sources, you ask the company for comment, and when a source says a company wrote her paychecks and then provides a check from that company, you add that to the record and keep asking questions. Now, this is completely speculative on my part, but with all of this clues and dots and connecting these dots and seeing all this, me personally, in my opinion, everything is pointing to Teulu Legosy as the parent company. In my mind, in my opinion. Again, we don't have any proof of that, but it's kind of fishy.
Maybe BAM has a simple explanation. Maybe Teulu Legosy is only connected to the store in Boise, Idaho, and it has nothing to do with the parent language written in the FDD. But if that's the answer, then BAM can say that. If you missed our opening video of the BAM files, please go check out part 1, where we took a deep look at answering the question, who is really in charge at BAM?
And this is also why episode 2 of the BAM Files is going to follow the money.
The BAM Files will continue.